I am Jason Wiersema. This is Tankers Fantasy Football, and we got a sexy deluxe episode for you today. We're going to get right into some running back and wide receivers starts and sits of the week, and dabble into a little quarterback and tight end starts and sit at the end. But before we get started, you know how we do it around here. Maybe you hit us with this little subscribe, maybe you don't. Maybe you throw us a like, maybe you don't, maybe you go fuck yourself. But we are still going to get it right and get it tight here for you at Tankers Fantasy Football. We're going to start off with some running back starts. I know Melvin Gordon is looking to report today, but there's no way he's going to play on Sunday. You got one last dance, one last chance for romance with your boy Austin Ekeler, and at least it's a good one for you because you've got the Dolphins who are giving up the most yards, giving up 213 scrimmage yards to running backs a game, and the third most touchdowns to running backs as well. So all in RB1. Austin Ekeler, get yourself the last chance for romance. We got Leonard Fournette versus the Broncos, giving up the second most touchdowns. Fournette has been really looking all that sexy, but I still think he's high-end RB2 deluxe this week. Josh Jacobs should be looking to get it right for you, as we talked about in the buy and sell on Wednesday night. We got some Josh Jacobs playing the Colts, giving up the most points to running backs, and that includes the fourth most touchdowns. So if they get him a little bit more involved through the air, and he's only got the one reception on the season, but all in Josh Jacobs back end. I'm saying back end RB1 this week, boys. All in Josh Jacobs this week. That was Sean McCoy. If Damian Williams is still out, he's got the Lions. They're getting up the fifth most yards to running back. So solid RB2 play with Sean McCoy this week. We've got James Conner. Now, if James Conner does not get it done versus the Bengals this week, are giving up the third most yards, giving up 188 scrimmage yards to running backs a game, along with the most touchdowns a game to running backs as well. So if James Conner does not get it sexy for you this week against the Bengals, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to get it sexy for you. So this is last chance for romance out there with James Conner as well. I think if he does go out there and get it sexy for you, you might want to try and sell high on the James Conner. All right, we got Joe Mixon, another start. We got some Steelers giving up the second most yards, 198 scrimmage yards a game to running back. So I think Joe can be a solid RB2 for you this week. All right, moving into some running back sits. We got the Bills running backs. We got Frank Gore and we got Singletary if he decides to suit up. But the Patriots giving up the fewest yards and the fewest touchdowns to running backs thus far. So I think all things Bills running backs, go ahead and sit him this week. We got Devontae Freeman on the sit list playing against the Titans, giving him the sixth fewest points. I mean, he went out there and he played 90% of his team snaps last week after Ito Smith went down early with the concussion. Did Devontae Freeman against the Colts run D, who just vomited up points, and he still only was able to get you 11 fantasy points last week was Devontae Freeman. So I think Devontae Freeman all in on the sit versus the Titans. All right, we got Sony Michel. I think Sony Michel, I think he's shit gun deluxe. I don't know. I'm sitting him until further notice. I think I've seen enough. He's only forced one missed tackle through 45 carries this season. The Bills are giving up the sixth fewest rush yards to running backs as well. So I really think Sony Michel is an all-in sit this week until possible further notice. All right, we got some Aaron Jones playing tonight against the Eagles, giving the fifth fewest yards and the fifth fewest touchdowns through running backs. The serious running back by committee in Green Bay. Jamal Williams actually played more snaps than Jones did last week, so I'm a little bit weary on Jones. I know you might not have very many other options. I'm not necessarily telling you to sit Aaron Jones, but he'd probably temper expectation at the very least. All right, we are moving into some wide receiver starts of the week. We got Scary Terry playing the Giants, giving up the most yards, giving up 262 yards to wide receivers a game, and the fifth most touchdowns with the second most fantasy points. So Scary Terry all in. wide receiver 2 this week, Scary Terry. We got some Tyler Boyd, John Ross. Pittsburgh giving the 5th most yards. I think they're both going to be very serviceable flex plays this week. We got DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. Texans are giving up the 4th most yards, and Kyle Allen is looking sexy deluxe out there. Last week I know Kyle Allen and the Panthers played the Cardinals, which you know, I mean, it's not too hard to look sexy deluxe versus the Cardinals, but I think, you know, DJ Moore, Samuel, Texans probably going to be scoring points. Probably look to be a shootout. You know, one of the higher over-unders on the week. I think DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel are a go this week. Sterling Shepard for the Giants. Daniel Jones and him looked like they got a connection. He had 7 for 100 and touchdown last week. No Saquon Barkley. They're probably going to lean heavily on him, heavily on Evan Ingram. And the Redskins are giving the most touchdowns and fantasy points to wide receivers. So all in flex play, deluxe, Sterling Shepard this week. We got Devontae Adams. I know, talking about, what are you talking about? Tell people you got to start Devontae Adams. Of course you start Devontae Adams. Well, I'm telling you, MVS has more fantasy points than Devontae Adams. Deshaun Jackson, who has only scored fantasy points in 1 week this year, has more fantasy points than Devontae Adams. So, you know, maybe some people out there are a little bit thinking they're a little bit scared off. Him and MVS might be solid plays this week. The Philadelphia Eagles give him the 5th most touchdowns and the 7th most yards to opposing wide receivers. So don't be afraid. All in Devontae Adams. I think he has this huge bounce back, gets his ass in the end zone finally for you. So all in on MVS and Devontae Adams this week are the starts. We got some sits at wide receiver. Chris Godwin kind of came crashing back to earth yesterday. Mike Evans, you know, retook his Tampa Bay wide receiver 1 throne last week in the Rams. Bucks are going on the road versus the Rams. You're the 3rd fewest yards and the fewest touchdowns to wide receivers. So, I mean, you can't sit Chris Godwin. You can't do it. I'm just saying, temper expectations. Kind of more of a wide receiver 3 this week than wide receiver 2 play. We got Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar playing tonight versus Packers. Give him the 5th fewest yards and the 3rd fewest touchdowns. So Alshon Jeffrey coming back from injury, nothing to do with it. Nelson Aguilar last week, his 2 touchdowns late saved his day. Otherwise, he had a fumble. He only had like 50 yards on his 8 catches. Got in the end zone twice. But with Alshon back and the toughness of this Packers secondary, I'm looking to sit both this week on Thursday Night Football. We got D.D. Westbrook. Chris Harris might shadow him. Chris Harris also likes to play in the slot where D.D. kind of likes to hang out. And the Broncos are giving up the fewest yards to wide receivers thus far. So I think D.D. Westbrook is a solid sit for you. We got John Brown. Fantasy darling, weeks 1 and 2 kind of came back down to earth last week. I'd probably still look to sit him this week, even though the Bills could be in full second half chase mode game script style. But Patriots give him the 2nd fewest yards and the fewest touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. Patriots defense absolutely devouring motherfuckers out there. So I think John Brown is also a good sit for you. All right, we got 1 quarterback start of the week. We got 1 tight end start, and we got a quarterback sit and a tight end sit for you this week. We're going to go Matthew Stafford at home versus the Chiefs. I think the Lions are just going to have to clang and bang to keep up with Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has never played in the dome. I don't think it's anything that's going to necessarily scare him off. He's got a lot of speed on his team. Inside turf tends to favor speedy guys. So I think Mahomes is still going to be able to clang and bang. So Stafford is going to have to clang and bang to keep up with him. So I think all in start Matt Stafford this week. Quarterback sit. Got Jameis Winston headed out to play the Rams. We're giving the 2nd fewest points and the 2nd fewest touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks thus far this season. Winston on the road in LA. I don't think it's looking sexy. East Coast to West Coast. It doesn't really play out too sexy a lot. So I don't think all in Jameis Winston sit. I know we got it right for you last week, but I think, you know, back-to-back Jameis Winston getting it right. Odds aren't necessarily in the favor out there. We got 1 tight end sit. We got Will Disley. He's playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals are just giving him a gross 116 yards a game to opposing tight ends. T.J. Hawkins in week 1 ripped their soul out. Hasn't done dick shit yet since. I mean, Mark Andrews week 2, he ripped their soul out. Greg Olsen last week went out there, got over 100 yards as well, and a touchdown. Absolutely ripped their soul out. They're also averaging over a touchdown a game to opposing tight ends. So all in on the Will Dissly. Speaking of Greg Olsen, might temper expectations this week. I know the tight end landscape's a little hurting, so you probably can't sit him since how sexy he's been doing it for you. But the Texans have not yielded a tight end touchdown yet this season and are getting the fourth fewest points to tight ends. So maybe, damper your expectations on the old Greg Olsen this week. All right, you like the cut of my jib? Give me a like, give me a subscribe, hit me with all your questions in the comment section below. I get back to you. If you missed Travis, I know we had a "Where's Travis" comment on the last video. I missed Travis too. He has a very busy week during the week schedule, so it's hard for us to get together. But if you do want Travis as much as I do, send him a message. He's at Travis Ray. He's on the Facebook. Send him the DMs out there. He will, maybe we can spark him, get enough fanfare. Maybe force his ass to come stand next to me in the near future. Alrighty. We will see you next week, boys. Holla at me.
I'm hot as fuck, bitch.